We'll start in a minute. Let the students join. Hello, good morning, and welcome to Baiju's Exam Prep. Today is lecture 2 of Indian Polity. What did we discuss yesterday? The significance of Indian polity for the civil services examination, because this subject is relevant for all the stages of this exam: prelims, mains, essay, and the personality test. What do we have to cover in Indian polity? Basically, three broad themes. One, the Constitution of India. Second, the laws passed by the legislature. Third, various judicial verdicts, various judicial pronouncements. Laws and judicial verdicts which are in the news or which happened over the past 1.5 years. That should be our focus area. And what are the sources that you should follow? These class lectures, plus Lakshmikant for your prelims exam, plus newspaper. Link the three together and you're all set for the mains examination, because Lakshmikant is not going to be of any help for the mains exam. For prelims, Lakshmikant and the class notes. For mains, Lakshmikant, class notes, plus newspaper. That should be more than enough. But if you have got time, then please go through the 2 NCERT books that I recommended yesterday. Done? Then we looked at what is the Constitution. Constitution is the supreme law of land which enjoys special legal sanctity. And it is this Constitution which allocates areas, roles to various organs of the state. In a sense, what is the role of the executive? What is the role of the judiciary? What is the role of the legislature? It is basically a rule book which tells us how this country is to be governed. What sort of polity do we need to have in this country? Then we discussed that a constitution can be of two types. It can be a written constitution or it can be an unwritten constitution. But that is not too important for our exam. What is more important is whether a constitution is unitary or the constitution is federal. What are the features of a unitary constitution? What are the features of the federal constitution? That's something that we discussed yesterday. And I told you that there is no specific definition of what is a federal constitution. Then what do the constitutional experts do? They look at the constitution of a country and compare it with the constitution of the United States of America. If it matches, then it's a federal constitution, because we say US constitution is the oldest federal constitution of the world. But what about India? We say India is a case of sui generis. Some say it is something unique, which we haven't seen anywhere in the world. It's a beautiful mix of some unitary features, some federal features. And that is why some experts say that the best term that we can use for Indian constitution is that the Indian constitution is quasi-federal. Then we discuss some other important concepts. For example, the theory of separation of powers, which has been attributed to French philosopher Montesquieu. We looked at the doctrine of checks and balances. And towards the end, we looked at constitutionalism. Clear? And we also discussed how constitutionalism can be worked around in India. The rule of law, popular sovereignty is with the people, separation of powers, individual rights, independent judiciary, so on and so forth. But this was only an introduction. We will now dig deeper into the Constitution, and some of the themes which we did not touch yesterday, we will touch over a period of time. For example, we need to understand what is a transformative constitution. Can we employ the constitution to transform the society? Something that we have witnessed in South Africa. And there have been numerous Supreme Court judgments. Navtej Singh Johar judgment, Joseph Shine judgment, Shabrimala judgment, various judgments which we will discuss throughout the course of these lectures, where the Supreme Court has said that the power of the Indian Constitution The role of the Indian Constitution is not just to tell us the way in which the polity is governed in India. The power of the Constitution is also to transform the society. Transform the society in the sense, how can we ensure that LGBTQ community, they also have the right to love, despite the fact that society may not be too accepting this idea of a same-sex relationship. But you can use this constitution to transform the society. It may not happen now, but it may happen over a period of time. How constitution can be used to transform the society, that we will discuss towards the end of these lectures. But now let's jump to the preamble of the constitution, because our constitution begins with the preamble. And what is this preamble? It's basically the philosophy of the constitution. For example, if you give me bribe to do something for you or your family or for your business, I may not accept this. Why? Because I'll tell you, this is not my philosophy. I'm brutally honest. For example, this is just an assumption. I may not be. I'm brutally honest. I will not take money to get things done for you. That's my philosophy. That's philosophy of an educational institute, maybe a very good institute, a very good school or a college or a university, is to impart quality education. They will not compromise on the quality education. They may compromise on infrastructure, but other areas, but not on the quality education. Why? Because that is their philosophy. That's their core belief. Look at the Indian Constitution. 12 schedules are there in the Constitution. 25 parts are there in the Constitution. More than 444 articles are there in the Constitution. But if you don't want to read the entire Constitution, but you want to understand the essence of this Constitution, what do? Do you have to read articles one by one to understand what is the basic crux of Indian Constitution? No. If you want to understand the basic idea behind the Indian Constitution, all you have to do, look at this beautiful text known as the preamble. So preamble is nothing but the philosophy of the Constitution. You may not understand this yet. Let me make it even simpler. For example, you read a book, a novel, for example. It starts with the preface. What does this preface tell you? There is a preface to a book. This preface gives you insights into what this book is all about. Not just this. This preface gives you insights into the writer as well. Listen to me carefully. You want to read a novel, starts with the preface. When you look at the preface, even if you don't read the entire book, you will get an idea, a strong idea, a very core idea of what this book is all about, what this novel is all about, only by reading the preamble, only by reading the preface. Similarly, if you want to have an idea of what is the basic philosophy of the Indian Constitution, you may not be able to read the entire Constitution. Just go through the preamble, you will understand the philosophy. But not just this. It will also give you insights into the minds of those who drafted this Constitution. For example, if the preamble talks about liberty, equality, dignity, justice, so on and so forth, you may safely assume that all those members of the Constituent Assembly who drafted our Constitution, they were the believers of equality. They were the believers of justice. They were the believers of dignity. Otherwise, they would not have mentioned these terms in the Constitution in the first place. So just like preface to a book gives you insights into the book, gives you a basic idea of what the book is all about, and at the same time gives you an idea, unlocks the minds of those who wrote this book. In a similar fashion, preamble is the philosophy of the Constitution, gives you insight into what the Constitution is all about, and also unlocks the minds of the makers who wrote this Constitution. Supreme Court has said in various judgments that preamble is basically, in a nutshell, if you want to ask what does preamble contain, preamble contains the ideals and the aspirations of the Constitution. What do we want to achieve through this Constitution? That's mentioned in the preamble, which we will discuss in great detail today. What is the aspiration of this new country that this new country wants to achieve through this Constitution? That is mentioned in the preamble. So preamble is basically all the lofty goals that we see in our Constitution, whether it is of justice, dignity, liberty, equality, so on and so forth. All these goals that we want to achieve through this Constitution, those goals are contained in the preamble. And in Berubari Union case, 1960, the Supreme Court said this preamble is a key to unlock the mind of the makers of the Constitution? And this is a question which was once asked in the prelims exam. Which of the following can be viewed as a key to unlock the minds of the makers of the Constitution? If you want to understand the thought process of what was going on in the minds of those who drafted this Constitution, for that, you only have to take a look at the preamble of the Indian Constitution. So let me repeat. What is preamble? It's like the philosophy of the Constitution of India. And what is that philosophy? If you want to understand what are we trying to achieve through this Constitution, because let's understand, if the members of the Constituent Assembly came together to write the Constitution, they must have an objective in mind. That through this Constitution, what is it that we are trying to achieve? Are we trying to achieve a society where caste inequality will be reduced, where income inequality will be reduced, where there will be no discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth? Are we trying to achieve and realize a society where every single individual will be given dignity? Are we trying to achieve a society where the society will help the poor, the downtrodden, the weaker sections of the society? Are we trying to ensure a society where scientific temper would be developed? What is it that we try to achieve through this Constitution? All those ideals, all those lofty goals, all those aspirations are contained in the preamble. And when we look at the preamble, we just don't look at the text. We may also understand the thought process which was going on in the minds of the makers of the Constitution. But this preamble is based on the objectives resolution which was moved by Pandit Nehru in the Constituent Assembly and ultimately adopted by the Constituent Assembly on the 22nd of January 1947. Objectives resolution. Constituent Assembly. And what is that body? You will discuss this in great detail in modern India when modern history would be covered. Members were nominated to the Constituent Assembly so that these members can draft the Constitution of India. They met for the first time on the 9th of December 1946. And over a period of 2.5 years, they worked very hard, toiled to enact a constitution for this country. But the members of the Constituent Assembly had to do what? Write the Constitution. What should be the objective of this Constitution that we are trying to write, that we are trying to enact, that we are trying to adopt? Pandit Nehru went to the Constituent Assembly, introduced a resolution that this should be the objective of the Constitution. What is that objective? We should have a secular polity. What is the objective? Objective should be all the problems of the world can be solved through talks, through diplomacy, through peaceful means. We don't have to resort to war. There should be equality. There should be freedom of speech and expression. There should be liberty to say whatever you want to say. My dear members of the Constituent Assembly, this is what should be the objective of this Constitution. Members of the Constituent Assembly accepted this and said this is a very good thing to do. We accept this objectives resolution, which was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on the 22nd of January 1947. And then the same objectives resolution, with some changes in wording, became the preamble to the Constitution. So we can say this preamble is based on the objectives resolution moved by Pandit Nehru and adopted by the Constituent Assembly on the 22nd of January 1947. The objective resolution, with some changes in their words, syntax, became the preamble to the Constitution of India. And now let's look at what this preamble is all about. Look at this beautiful text. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social justice, economic justice, political justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, assuring the dignity of an individual. When we look at this preamble, we can break this preamble for our understanding for the civil services examination into 4 broad themes. In a sense, first, it says we the people of India. Second, it talks about these terms, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Then it talks about something like justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, so on and so forth. And then it mentions a date, 26th of November 1949. Let's look at all these 4 themes one by one. The first is we the people. The constitution that we are writing, this constitution derives its authority from whom? From the people of India. What does that mean? This constitution is not the gift of United Nations. This constitution is not the gift of United States. This constitution is not the gift of United Kingdom. This constitution is not the gift of any foreign power. This constitution is given to the people of this country by themselves. Indians were there, part of the Constituent Assembly. And on behalf of the millions of the people of this country, they came together to draft and write the constitution of this newly independent India. So this constitution is the gift of the people of this country to themselves. So this constitution, whatever its authority is, the source of that authority are the people of this country. What is the source of my authority? I come from Byju's. That's why I'm teaching right in front of you. What is the source of authority that a police officer gets? He or she may be holding an important post in the police department. And from that department, that is the source of your authority. The source of your authority may be the chair that you're holding or occupying. But this constitution, what is the source of its authority? How can we say that everybody should respect this? How can we say that everybody has to adhere to this constitution? How can we say that everybody has to swear by this constitution and follow the spirit of this constitution? Because the source of its authority are the people. And in democracy, people are the ultimate sovereign. Ultimate sovereign in the sense, we don't like a particular government, we will throw this government out after 5 years. We may like this particular government and we will vote for this government back after 5 years. Ultimate power is with the people. They can make a government, they can change a government, they can vote somebody into power, they can throw somebody out of power. The ultimate power is with the people. And it is the same set of people who have given themselves the constitution. Which means, if at all constitution has the authority, what is the source of that authority? What is the source from which the constitution derives its power, authority? That's the people of India. We, the people of India. And then we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Do you know this guy? Yes, I do. This guy is very calm. This guy is shy. This woman is very brave. What is this? This is the nature of an individual. By nature, I am shy, for example. By nature, I'm very polite. By nature, I'm very forgiving. By nature, I'm very forgetful. So that's the nature of an individual. That's the nature of the society. What is the nature of the Indian state? It should be sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. And I will explain all these 5 phrases one by one, but in a moment. But the most important thing that you need to keep in mind is that all these terms are in capital letters. All these terms are in capital letters, and there is no comma separating sovereign from socialist, socialist from secular, secular from democratic, democratic from republic. Which means you don't have to look at these terms in isolation. It is sovereign and socialist and secular and democratic and republic. No, it is one and the same. You can't separate one from the other. You have to look at this phrase in its totality. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. This is one term. And what is the implication of that? We will discuss in a moment. But first, what are we discussing? This beautiful text, preamble, we the people of India. For the civil services examination, we can break it down into 4 themes, 4 broad areas. First, it tells us what is the source of authority of this constitution. If this constitution is the sacred document of India, where does it derive its authority from? From the people of India. Second, it tells us about the nature of the Indian state, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Third, it also tells us about the objectives of the constitution. Because what is preamble after all? It is a document which reflects the ideals and the aspirations of the constitution. Through this constitution, what is it that we try to achieve and want to achieve? And what is it that we want to achieve? Justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity of an individual. All these are the objectives of the constitution. That's theme number 3. And theme number 4, the date of adoption. What do we mean by date of adoption? The Constitution. It was ready on 26th of November 1949. Constituent Assembly, which met for the first time on the 9th of December 1946, worked very hard over a period of two and a half years. And finally, this constitution was ready on the 26th of November 1949. Clear? But this constitution was enacted. It entered into force on 26th January 1950. This is known as the date of enactment. And 26th November 1949 is celebrated now as the Constitution Day. And 26th January 1950, you would know, celebrated as the Republic Day. But sir, what's the difference? Do you read newspapers? Yes, sir. Recently, a landmark bill was passed by both houses of the Indian Parliament. What was that bill? Women's reservation. Reservation for women in Lok Sabha, in state legislative assemblies. When was this bill passed? It was passed this year in 2023. But when this bill would enter into force? When do we see women's reservation really implemented in India? After 2029. We will discuss this in women's reservation. I don't see this happening even in 2034. But be that as it may, that means although the bill has been passed, but this will enter into force once delimitation would be carried out. This would enter into force when the census would be carried out. So this is a long process. That means you may have adopted a bill today, but you will implement this after a while. Similarly, Constitution was adopted on 26th of November 1949, but it was enacted, it entered into force, it got implemented few months later on 26th January 1950. But why? There is a story behind this. There is history to this. And that is thanks to or because of Pandit Nehru. Why Pandit Nehru? Look at the colonial period when India was struggling for her independence. In 1885, an important organization was born, known as the Indian National Congress. A.O. Hume, over a period of time, Dadabhai Naroji, Surendranath Banerjee, and others, W.C. Banerjee, so on and so forth. But initially, what was the role of the Congress, Indian National Congress? They did not want complete independence, which you will study in modern history. They were basically asking for reforms. Reforms in the sense, more and more Indians should be made part of the legislature. More and more Indians should be made to write the civil services examination so that Indians can become the Indian civil servants. And over a period of time, the demand of the Congress party was some sort of self-rule. Self-rule known as Swaraj or home rule. Something that Lokmanya Tilak, Annie Besant, they spoke of. Home rule or self-rule or Swaraj. When Lokmanya Tilak said, Swaraj is my birthright and I must have it, he was not talking of complete independence. He was talking of home rule. Home rule in the sense, ultimate power will be with the Queen of England. We don't want to come out of the control of the Queen. But please allow us, despite the fact that we will be part of the British Empire, please allow Indians to make laws for the people themselves. Ultimate sovereignty will be with the Queen. Ultimate power will be with the Queen. But please allow us, for our day-to-day activities, allow us to make laws for the people of India. But over a period of time, left wing became very powerful in Congress. Those who were critical of the old members of the Congress party. And this left bloc was led by Pandit Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, and others. A historic session was held in the aftermath of the Simon Commission. Simon Commission came to India in 1927. all these things you may have or you will discuss in modern history. Simon Commission, the very task of the Simon Commission was to see if Indians can be allowed to make laws for themselves, whether Indians are fit to make laws for their own members. But there was no Indian part of the Simon Commission. So a commission which was responsible to check and see if Indians can make laws for themselves, there was no Indian on this panel of Simon Commission. Ultimately, it was boycotted. There were protests, and Lala Lajpat Rai also unfortunately passed away in these protests. It was at this juncture that people thought in the Congress party that we should give a final ultimatum to the British government that we need complete independence. But then there were old members of the Congress party who said, no, not now. Let's not antagonize the British. They will kill you, or they will do this, they will do that. We will ask for home rule. We will ask for Swaraj, or we will ask for dominion status. Which means India will be the dominion of the British Empire, will be under the control of the British Empire. But Indians will make laws for themselves, Indians will elect themselves, and will make laws for their day-to-day activities. Members of the left wing of this Congress, Subhash Chandra Bose, Pandit Nehru, they were not happy with this. But they ultimately went with the old guard, supported the old guard, but said 1 year. If in 1 year the British government is not giving you dominion status, then don't interfere with our line of thinking. We will ask for complete independence. We will no longer be satisfied with dominion status or self-rule or home rule or Swaraj. And in 1929, a historic session of the Indian National Congress was held at Lahore. It was then an undivided India. Lahore was part of India. Indian National Congress session at Lahore in 1929, and a resolution was passed. This resolution called for Purna Swaraj. Complete independence. The president of this Lahore session of Indian National Congress was Pandit Nehru. And under the presidentship of Pandit Nehru, a resolution was passed calling for complete independence of India. And for the first time, on 26th January 1930, Independence Day was celebrated. This was only for optics, although we did not get independence on that day, but this was just to fuel, to ignite the passions among the people, to give them confidence that independence is just around the corner. 26th January 1930, Independence Day was celebrated and the Indian flag was hoisted. So this date, 26th January, was very close to Pandit Nehru, because this was when the first Independence Day was celebrated, after the Lahore Declaration, after the Purna Swaraj resolution. So Pandit Nehru asked the members of the Constituent Assembly that since it is 26 November 1949, the Constitution is ready, but can we shift, push, postpone the implementation, enactment of this Constitution by some days so that we can enact this Constitution? If we could not get independence on 26 January, at least let's enact the Constitution, give Constitution the force on 26 January 1950, so that this date, which is very significant in our history, is etched into the memory of all the Indians. And perhaps he was right. That's why we are discussing it today. Otherwise, we would not be possibly discussing the 26th January 1930 when the first Independence Day was celebrated. So although the Constitution was adopted on 26 November 1949, which we now celebrate as the Constitution Day, but it was implemented on 26th of January 1950. And that day is celebrated as the Republic Day. And there is a history to that. For that, you need to go back to the Lahore Declaration of 1929. So this text preamble, it talks about four things. One, what is the source of authority of this Constitution? From where does the Constitution derive its authority from? We, the people of India. Second, what should be the nature of the Indian state? Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. What are the objectives of the Constitution? Liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity of an individual. And finally, the date on which the Constitution was adopted, which is 26th day of November, 1949. So theme 1 and theme 4 we have discussed. Now we will discuss theme 2 and theme 3. Let's look at all these natures one by one. But if you have got any questions, please let me know. Any questions? Clear, clear, clear. Okay. What is the nature of the Indian state? First, it is sovereign. Sovereign in the sense, when we passed women's reservation bill in the parliament, did we seek the permission of United Nations before that? When we passed the three farm laws, did we ask United States whether we can pass such laws or not? When we implement our policy, for example, on Ukraine, we had a beautiful foreign policy. We neither took sides nor did we antagonize anybody. In a sense, Russia is an aggressor, invaded Ukraine, but we implemented a delicate balance where we said that the solution to this problem is talks, diplomacy, negotiation. War is not a solution. Without antagonizing Russia, without appearing that we are taking the side of the Ukraine. And when we took this decision, when we took the stand, did we seek the permission of Britain or other countries or European Union or NATO? We did not. That means we are sovereign. Sovereign in the sense we can make or unmake any decision without any interference by any other country. Prior to our independence, were we sovereign? No. Because it was the foreign power, an alien power, the Britain, which was taking decisions on our behalf. So that means the nature of the Indian state is that it has to be, it will be forever and ever sovereign. It can take any decision, it can unmake any decision without any interference by any other country. That's the independent power that this country has, sovereignty. But then you might be asking, or you might wonder, sir, India is also part of WTO. What is WTO? World Trade Organization. And this WTO is imposing some restrictions. Restrictions in the sense, you cannot be giving subsidies above this particular point. You cannot be storing the food items beyond this particular point. You cannot stock these food items. And there are so many subsidy boxes, amber box, blue box, whatever these boxes are. Then how can we say that we are sovereign? Because if we violate these directives of the WTO, sanctions can be imposed on us. So if sovereignty means that we can take any decision, we can unmake any decision without any interference by any foreign country, without any interference by any foreign organization, just the fact that we are part of WTO, which imposes restrictions, which dictates us what to do when it comes to agricultural subsidy, whether you can provide diesel subsidy to the farmers or not, whether you can provide electricity subsidy to the farmers or not, whether you can stockpile your food grains or not, whether you can give urea as subsidy or not, then how can we say we are independent? But listen to me carefully. We have joined WTO out of our own free will. And once you join an organization, you have to abide by the rules of that organization, because you have accepted those rules. But at any point in time, we can come out of WTO as well. So despite the fact that India is part of WTO, we are still sovereign, because we joined WTO out of our own free will, and we can come out of WTO as well. Are you independent to take a decision? Yes. You are independent to take a decision. You went to a restaurant. That's your independent decision. But inside the restaurant, there is a big board which says no smoking. You're not allowed to smoke. Does that mean you're not independent to take a decision for yourself because the restaurant is dictating terms for you? No, you entered that restaurant out of your own free will. And if you see that board and it is not acceptable to you, you will come out of it and join another restaurant where there is an open display, smoke here. Whatever the case may be, sovereign is the nature of the Indian state, which means Indian state can make any decision, can unmake any decision, can join an organization, can come out of an organization out of its own free will. There can be no interference by any other country. That is sovereignty. So the first nature of the Indian state is sovereign. Second, democratic. Why second, democratic? Because this term socialist, secular, and integrity, these were the three items which got added to the constitution through 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. In the preamble, till 1976, these terms, socialist, secular, integrity, these were not mentioned. It was only when Srimati Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister, Parliament enacted another constitutional amendment. That means Constitution was amended for the 42nd time, and these terms got added: socialist, secular, integrity. That is why when the new Parliament complex was started, when they used the new Parliament complex for the first time, and then the copies of the preamble were given to the members of the Parliament, the opposition said that this is not the updated preamble. Why? Because the words socialist, secular, integrity were missing from the preamble, because these words were added later in 1976. So the nature of the Indian state is one, sovereign; second, democratic. And what is democracy? As Abraham Lincoln said, government of the people, by the people, for the people. Listen to me carefully. I told you the nature of an individual. I may be shy, I may be forgiving, I may be forgetful, I may be calm, I may be angry. That's my nature. But the members of the Constituent Assembly who were writing the Constitution for India, they also had to talk about what sort of government do we have to implement in India. There can be an option of monarchy. Maybe we need a king. There can be a question of one party rule, just like in China. Communist Party is ruling forever and ever and ever. But the members of the Constituent Assembly said that this preamble or this constitution, which is the gift of the people to themselves, because it begins with we the people. Since this constitution is the gift of the people to themselves, we need to give power back to the people. And what is that power back to the people? You and me can contest elections and be the members of the parliament and the state legislatures. You and me can become ministers. You and me can become prime ministers or the presidents. So democracy is the form of government that we chose for ourselves. Because in democracy, there is equal participation of all the people in building this country, in building the society, in building the country. And that is what Supreme Court said. In R.C. Podial versus Union of India, 1994, Supreme Court said democracy denotes people's power. What is the power of the people? We did not agree with this government when the government is saying Bharat Uday, India shining in 2004. We voted this government out of power and brought in a new government in 2004. Disliked this government in 2014, brought in another government. Liked this government in 2019, voted this government back to power in 2019. Now you will have to decide what you want to do in 2024. That's the power of the people. So democracy denotes people's power and equal participation of all citizens in polity. Nobody can stop you from contesting the election. Whether you can win or not, that's the separate matter altogether. But nobody can stop you from contesting the election. So democracy is a form of government by the people, of the people, for the people. And that is another nature of Indian state. We will never be dictatorship regime. We will never turn into a monarchy. We will never turn into a one-party rule. We will always remain a democracy because that has been told by our constitution makers that is another nature of Indian state. One, we have to be independent, sovereign, to take any decision, to unmake any decision. Second, we have to be democratic. Third, republic. What do we mean by republic? Britain, for example, is Britain a republic? Is Britain a democracy? Yes, it is. Is Britain a sovereign? Yes, it is. Is Britain a republic? No. Why? Because we say Britain is constitutional monarchy. India is a republic. What does that mean? In Britain, who is the head of state? In Britain, it is the king. In India, who is the head of the state? President. Head of the state is the president. The first citizen of India is the president. Why? What are the powers of the president? We'll discuss that when we will start Union Executive chapter, where we will discuss president, prime minister, council of ministers, the cabinet committees, the attorney general for India, so on and so forth. This king, is he elected in Britain? No. The king is holding this office because of heredity. Queen Elizabeth passed away, now King Charles. After that, King Williams. After that, son, daughter, and this goes on, continues forever and ever and ever. India is a republic. Because the head of the state, who is the president of India, is not a hereditary position. It is an elected office. Srimati Draupadi Murmu, she was elected by the people of India. Sir, how was Srimati Draupadi Murmu elected by the people of India? We did not vote. But you voted for your MPs in Lok Sabha. You voted for your MLAs in the Legislative Assembly. And these MLAs of the Legislative Assembly, these MPs of the Lok Sabha, they voted to elect President Draupadi Murmu. So the president is elected by the people, but not directly. You don't directly vote to elect the president of India. You elect the president of India indirectly. Indirectly through your representatives, whom you have got elected to the Legislative Assembly and the Lok Sabha. Prior to Srimati Draupadi Murmu, we had Mr. Ramnath Kovind as the president. Prior to that, we had Pranab Mukherjee as the president. Prior to that, we had Pratibha Devi Singh Patil as the president. Prior to that, we had Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam as the president. So on and so forth. That means tomorrow, can the daughter of Srimati Draupadi Murmu become the president of India? Yes. But not because she is the daughter of the president. She may get elected to the office of the president of India. And that is what we mean by republic. Republic means the head of the state is elected. And it is not a hereditary monarch, just like in England. That is why we say in England, do they have a constitution? Yes. Although it's an unwritten constitution, but they have a constitution. But they are a democracy. They are a sovereign country. But they are not republic because the head of the state, the king, is not an elected individual. He's holding that office because of his descent, hereditary connection. So we say Britain is a case of constitutional monarchy. It has a constitution, but it is a monarchy. India is a case of constitutional republic because we have a constitution and the head of the state is an elected individual. But that's not the only thing that republic term denotes. This office of the President of India is open for anybody. Do we say that the president only has to be a male and not a female? No, we never say that. Do we say that this president should only be from North India and not South India? Do we say that this president should be from a particular racial group? This president cannot be a tribal. This president has to be part of the mainstream India. Do we say that this president should be of a particular religion? Can only be a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian or a Sikh? No. That means this office of president, this office of the head of the state is an elected office. And at the same time, this office is open for all without any discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, so on and so forth. That is what we call republic. So what is the nature of the Indian state? One, it is sovereign. It is democratic. It is republic. And third, fourth, socialist. And socialist, you would know, I told you it was not originally part of the constitution, part of the preamble. It was added to the preamble in the year 1976 by way of 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. But what is the socialist? For that, we need to understand what is the Karl Marx's concept of socialism. Listen to me carefully. Karl Marx, the most influential philosopher of all time. If you read philosophy, you have to read Marx. If you read sociology, you have to read Marx. If you read economics, you have to read Marx. If you read history, you have to read Marx. If you read political science, you have to read Marx. If you read anything, you have to read Marx. Such is the influence of Karl Marx on various disciplines in the world. Karl Marx said that there is something known as the cyclical nature of history. And what is that cyclical nature of history? We started off with primitive communism. If you are a student of sociology, you have to understand this in great detail. But we are not discussing sociology, we're discussing GS. So we will discuss this briefly so that you understand what socialism is. According to Marx, when the history started, when the society started, that was the phase of primitive communism, old communism. Communism in the sense, you, me, all of us, we were occupying this land. For example, there was no such thing as private property. It was not that this small piece of land belongs to me, this small piece of land belongs to you, this small piece of land belongs to you. No. This entire land was communal land. Communal is not a negative term only. Communal land in the sense that this land belongs to the entire community. Whatever was sown on this land, for example, a crop, and whatever was produced, that was equally distributed amongst all the members of the society. So it was a beautiful society. Beautiful society where nobody was rich, nobody was poor. Beautiful society where there was equality. Everybody was given equal share of this crop, of this produce. That was the beauty. A completely egalitarian society, according to Karl Marx. Egalitarian in the sense, a completely equal society, where there was no rich, there was no poor. Where there was no upper class, there was no lower class. Everybody was equal, because this entire land belongs to everybody. Nobody is the private holder of this land. But Karl Marx says, over a period of time, this society got destroyed. And then we entered into a society known as ancient society. And Karl Marx says it is from this very moment that classes emerged in the society. And Karl Marx says there are only two classes which emerge in a society: haves, have-nots. Basically, a complete reverse of an egalitarian, equalitarian society. Now, this is a deeply unequal society. Karl Marx says in ancient society there are two classes: masters and slaves. Masters and slaves in the sense that when this land was a communal land, everybody was the equal holder of this land. Some people, they became masters, took others as slaves and confiscated their property. So now emerged two classes: haves, masters, slaves, have-nots. And over a period of time, even this ancient society got changed, and this ancient society then shifted to a feudal society. And in feudal society also, there are two classes: landlords, serfs. And according to Marx, when technology changes, when means of production changes, there is a change in the society. And what is that change in the society? Very briefly here. Karl Marx, or I will add this on a different slide here so that you are not confused. Karl Marx talks about base structure hypothesis. What is that base structure hypothesis? This is the base. And base is always economic. And then we have superstructures at the top. Superstructures, for example, family. Superstructure, for example, education. Superstructure can be anything, and this changes because of technology. How? According to Karl Marx, everything is determined by economy. That's what Bill Clinton said in the 1990s. It's all economy stupid. Everything is based on economy. When economy changes, and economy changes when means of production changes, when technology changes. For example, when land was the primary source of revenue, when it got changed because we had industrial revolution. Industrial revolution happened because of the technology, when machines got invented. And ultimately, when economy changed, because from agrarian society, we moved towards a capitalist society, where technology changed, where means of production changed, the superstructures also changed. So what does that mean? That means, according to Karl Marx, number one, there is some cyclical nature of history. In the sense, we started off with primitive communism, where everybody was equal. There were no haves and have-nots. There were no masters and there were no slaves. Everybody was equal in the society. It was an equalitarian society. But then the society got destroyed, or society changed, and we entered into the ancient society, where there are now classes which emerge, masters and slaves. Even this ancient society changed, and we entered into the feudal society. And in feudal society, what is the source of revenue? What is the source of income? Land. And on this particular piece of land, there are landlords who don't work. Some people call them absentee landlords. They are absent from the land. They are playing golf. They're drinking wine, playing chess. But these are the workers who are working on these lands, tilling these lands. But what do they get? Peanuts. The real profit is controlled by these landlords. Landlords are becoming richer, and these serfs, these workers, these agricultural workers, they don't have lands and they are working for peanuts. Wide gulf between the rich and the poor. And Karl Marx says, after this feudal society, we entered into a capitalist society. And in capitalist society also, there are two classes. Because according to Karl Marx, after primitive communism, classes emerged, and there are always two classes, haves, have-nots. And in capitalist society, we have bourgeois, and we have the proletariat. Who are the bourgeois? Ambanis, Tatas, Birlas, Baijus, the owner, for example. They control the wealth. And who are the proletariat? Those who are working in these factories, working in these industries. And these workers are treated like slaves, according to Karl Marx. These workers, since they are given salary, they are made to believe that they have given up their life for these bourgeois, for these capitalist class. And Karl Marx saw the condition of these workers from very close quarters. Some were made to work for 18 to 20 hours a day, no medical insurance. Some workers even got their limbs cut because these conditions of work were very improper. There was no safety gear that was provided to these workers. And that is why Karl Marx in his Communist Manifesto said, workers of the world, unite and let's overthrow this capitalist system. Because he saw the evils of capitalism from very close quarters. And according to Karl Marx, society changes when technology changes, when means of production changes. And that is why he say there is something known as base structure hypothesis. Base is always of economic. When economy changes, and how does economy change? When technology changes. For example, when land was the principal source of revenue, then technology was introduced. Machines got invented. When machines got invented, ultimately what happened? We shifted our society from feudal society to capitalist society, where industries got developed. And Karl Marx says, whenever society changes, whenever this economy changes, superstructures at the top also change. Superstructure at the top, for example, family. How? When it was a feudal society, listen to me carefully. Beautiful application of mind by Karl Marx. When it was a feudal society, which basically means people will have to work on the agricultural field, because when you work on your fields, when you sow your crops, ultimately you get the produce. In feudal society, what was the sort of family? Joint family. Why joint family? Because more number of people in a family, less number of agricultural laborers you'd need because you will be working in your fields. And the society was also patriarchal. In a sense, we need more men in the family because more men means more hands. But when this feudal society changed, because economic base changed, we entered into a capitalist society. And in capitalism, you have to move to the cities. When you move to the cities, city life is costlier. So this family, joint family, the entire family cannot go to the city. So this joint family disappears, emerges a nuclear family. Husband, wife, their kids. They go to the city, they live there. Now we are in a hyper-capitalist society. And in this hyper-capitalist society, we see the disappearance of even a nuclear family. We see the emergence of something known as household. Household in the sense, a single member family, single parent family. We see the emergence of live-in relationships. Because whenever economic base changes, superstructure changes, family changes, education changes, politics changes, everything changes. But that is the domain of sociology. We will stop it there. We will come back to what Karl Marx said in a capitalist society. And you would know that society changes when technology changes, means of production changes. We entered into a capitalist society. There are two classes, haves, have-nots, bourgeois and proletariat. And these bourgeois, since they give salary to the proletariat, to the workers, they get a sense that we have got these workers as our slaves. They will do everything that we tell them to do. Karl Marx said, this is the horrific society and we need to get rid of the society as soon as possible. All the workers of the world, unite, and let's overthrow this capitalist system. So Karl Marx wanted a revolution. Karl Marx said we have to have a revolution, even if it's a bloody revolution. But we need to overthrow this capitalist system. And Karl Marx further said that for this to happen, religion should be destroyed. He was anti-religion. Why religion should be destroyed? Because he said religion is like the opium of the masses. Opium in the sense, according to Marx, all religions teach their followers that you will get something in the afterlife. You will get something in the afterlife. So even if we are poor here, we will be rich in the afterlife. So you get solace, you get comfort. You are being tortured by your bourgeois, by your capitalist founder, by your capitalist owner. You are tortured by this individual. But once you go back home, you pray to Lord and say, in the next life, please give me solace. So for this, Karl Marx says we will never enact a revolution. Because these people who belong to religion, who embrace religion, they turn docile. They cannot revolt. We need to extract religion from their veins. Otherwise, they will not revolt. Because they need to revolt to overthrow this capitalist system. And Karl Marx said religion makes poverty tolerable. How? Karl Marx says, look at the Christian hymn. It is easy for a camel to pass through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the heaven. This is the needle which is used for stitching. On top of that needle, you see an eye. It's a very small hole. Christianity says, according to Karl Marx, that it is easy that a camel, a big animal, can pass through the eye of this needle. It's very difficult, but that can happen. But it is not possible for a rich man to enter the heaven. So what is the religion teaching these workers, these members of the proletariat? This bourgeois will never enter the heaven. I will enter the heaven. So I'm here for 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, 70 years. But after that, I will die and I will go to the heaven. But I will drink wine, where I'll have all the luxuries that I need to think of. But this bourgeois will never enter the heaven. In such an atmosphere, how will you revolt? How will the worker revolt? How will the revolution happen? Because the workers will feel we are here only for a few years. After that, we will live the eternal life in the afterlife, full of wines and glory. Why should we revolt? And that's why Karl Marx said religion should be destroyed, because it's the opium of the masses. It is used to opiate the masses. But be that as it may, Karl Marx said the capitalist society has led to so much income inequality. Rich are becoming richer, poor are remaining the poorer. During pandemic, when people lost their lives, lost their jobs as well, lost their salaries as well. Some salaries were halved, some salaries 3/4 were cut. There were few businessmen who reached the top of this wealth map. Rich becoming richer. And this Gulf, according to Oxfam report, Oxfam is an organization which tracks the income inequality throughout the world, based in London. According to that report, 1% people control what other 99% people have. So there are only 1% people in the world who control the wealth of the 99% other people. Or should we say 99% of the wealth? Such is the income inequality. And for that, Karl Marx said this capitalist society should be destroyed. And this capitalist society can be destroyed, and we will enter into a stage of socialist society. What will happen in the socialist society? There will be no private property. What will happen in the socialist society? State will control everything. Bourgeois who have these factories and the industries. Karl Marx says once capitalist society is destroyed, state will become very powerful. Who is the state? Government. What will government do? Government will abolish private property. You have the private property, you have private industries, factories, corporations, banks, you have land. We will take over the entire property. Now I am the state, I am the custodian of the entire property of this country. Now what I will do? I will distribute it amongst the people. Distribution of wealth will take place. So Ambani's wealth will be distributed amongst the people. Adani's wealth will be distributed amongst the people. Your wealth will be distributed amongst the people. By whom? By the state. It may be possible that this distribution will take some time. It may be possible that this distribution may not be quick. But this will happen when the state will take over the entire property. And slowly and steadily, the rich, their income comes down, because we are now lifting the income of the poor. It will come down. And then ultimately we will reach a place where there is equality in the society. When there is equality in the society, does this remind you of everything? An old society, primitive communism. And Karl Marx says, then we will enter into communism. That's why Karl Marx said there is a cyclical nature of history. We started off with primitive communism. Then we entered into the ancient society. Then we entered into the feudal society. Then we entered into the capitalist society. Then we may enter into a socialist society. And in the socialist society, what will happen? The government controls everything, and government starts distributing to the people. But once this process is complete, we enter into communism, where everybody is equal. What will happen to the state? Listen to me carefully. What was the role of the state in socialism? To distribute wealth. Now that the government has played its role, has performed its duty, its job of distributing wealth, now we don't need even the government, according to Marx. We don't need even the state, according to Marx. And that is why in communism, Karl Marx states, state will wither away. State will disappear, government will disappear. We don't need the government at all. There will be people's rule. And this is where Karl Marx marries Mahatma Gandhi. Not literally, in the sense their ideas converge. What is Karl Marx's concept of communism? That's Mahatma Gandhi's concept of Ram Rajya, where there is no government required, no state required. A state-less society, a government-less society. Communism. 1976, when Constitution was amended, 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, this term socialist was added to the Constitution. It raised a lot of eyebrows at that time. Madam Gandhi, you're the Prime Minister, you have got the Parliament to enact this law. Now the preamble is amended. Now socialist is one of the nature of the Indian state. Are you trying to say that from now onwards there will be no private property? Are you now trying to say that from now onwards state will control everything? Are you now trying to say that we will come to a point where even the state is not required because we will enter into communism? Indira Gandhi said, I have my own definition of socialism. She was asked, Madam Gandhi, what is your definition of socialism? She did not elaborate. She did not answer. Can the Constitution of India talk about socialism in the way Karl Marx spoke of socialism? Constitutional experts say no. What is this socialism then, which our constitution is talking about? Constitutional experts say it is Fabian socialism. Some people say it is Gandhian socialism. What is Fabian socialism? What did Karl Marx say? That this capitalist society should be destroyed so that we have a socialist society. That's what Karl Marx said. And how can we transition from a capitalist society to a socialist society? For that, there needs to be a revolution. All the workers of the world unite. Fabian socialism is one school of thought in London. They say, look at the objective. Don't look at the means. What is the objective? The objective is to minimize the gulf between rich and the poor. That's what you're saying. The objective is that the rich should not become richer and poor remain poorer. That should not happen. That's what you're saying. Yes. For that, we don't need revolution. If Karl Marx says we need to transition from a capitalist society to a socialist society, and for that the workers of the world will have to unite and overthrow the system through revolution, why do we need revolution? Instead, let government do this. Without a bloody revolution, where the blood will be spilled on the streets, why can't government come into the picture and provide some benefits to the poor, to the downtrodden sections of the society, to the marginalized sections of the society, and lift them? Scholarships, pensions, old age pension, free education, free food, whatever is required, so that we can lift them from their current status. That means government will be used instead of a revolution. So the socialism that is mentioned in our constitution is similar to this. We are not saying the private property of the Adanis, Ambani's and Tatas will be confiscated. No, that is where welfare capitalism comes into the picture. We will take FDI. We will impose taxes on the rich. And whatever money is generated, we will give it to the poor. Free bus ride for all the women in Karnataka. Scholarships for the students. Free food. Free education. Similarly, some of the health insurance schemes. So whatever we get through capitalism, we will start spending it on the weaker sections of the society, poor, marginalized sections of the society. Who will spend this? Government. And that is what people say. This is socialism in India. Role of the government will always be there to minimize the income inequality. And that is what Supreme Court has also said in DS Nakara versus Union of India. What is socialism in India? It indicates incorporation of a philosophy, of an idea, that we need to eliminate inequality in income, in status, and the standards of life. That is the objective of that is the nature of the Indian state. That we need to minimize, eradicate, eliminate the inequality, whether it is inequality of income, whether it is inequality of status, whether it is inequality of the standard of living. We need to eliminate that, and that is socialism in India. The socialism in India is not something that Karl Marx spoke of, where even the government will disappear, will wither away after some time. No. So the preamble, it talks about four things. We, the people of India, which means what is the source of authority of the Constitution? People of India. Fourth, it talks about the date on which the Constitution was adopted. Second, it talks about the nature of the Indian state. And what is the nature of the Indian state? It will be sovereign. It will be socialist. It will be democratic. It will be republic. And the last thing, it will be secular. What is secularism? Anybody? Don't write like this in the exam. I asked what is secularism, and majority of the students are writing no religion. What does that mean? When we look at Europe, there was a time when church, which is a religious institution, was deeply involved in the affairs of the state. Church gets to decide what should be the economic policy, what should be the education policy, what should be the family policy. Church gets to decide everything. Then came the period of Renaissance. And in that period, we saw some beautiful concepts emerged in Europe. And one such concept was secularism. And in simple terms, secularism means separation of church from the matters of the state. In simple terms, state, which means the government, for example, they will decide what should be the foreign policy, what should be the economic policy, whether we need FDI or not, whether we need FII or not, whether we need to liberalize our economy or not. The state gets to decide the social policy, the laws. The church would not interfere at all. Church, you only deal with your religious matters. Don't interfere in the affairs of the state. That's what Jagjit Singh once sang. Mujhko kadam kadam pe bhatakne do waizo. Let me swing here and there after I'm drunk. Oh, the preachers of the religion. Tum apna karobar karo. Main nashe mein. Those who don't understand Hindi, I'm sorry, but I will translate and try to translate. You do your business. You do your danda. I will be in high spirits. So it's just similar to that. State will do its own job, own policies. The church would be separate. You deal with your religious matters. Do whatever you want to do. We will not interfere in your affairs. You don't interfere in our affairs. That's secularism. But the kind of secularism that we see in different parts of the world also varies. For example, secularism in France is slightly different. There was a time when the hijab was banned in Paris, in France. Why? On the streets. At your home, if you want to wear hijab, do it, because we will not interfere. We will not enter the private bedroom of your space. But in the open area, in the common area, on the streets, you should not be wearing hijab. Why? Because the streets are a secular place. Don't indoctrinate religion into the secular space. If you want to practice religion, practice within the four walls of your home. We will not interfere. That's the form of secularism in France. There's a form of secularism in the United States. Complete non-interference. We will not interfere in your religion. You want to pray to one God or 10,000 gods, doesn't matter. You want to pray or not pray, doesn't matter. We will not interfere. So complete non-interference in United States. That's secularism. Interference in France, so that you don't display your religious symbols publicly, because the public place is a secular place. That is secularism in France. There is secularism in China, because China, they say we are a communist state. And communism is the policy of Karl Marx. And Karl Marx says religion is the opium of the masses. Religion should be destroyed. That is why China ensures that religion is not even practiced. They have a province, the Xinjiang province, or Xinjiang province, as some people pronounce it, where there are the ethnic Uyghurs, who are predominantly Muslims. They're not allowed to fast during the holy month of fasting. They're not allowed to pray. Because the state is secular, they don't want you to practice religion. Because the state is anti-religion. But India is different. India is unique. Just like India. And what is the secularism in India? Secularism in India is, number one, we will protect all religions equally. And the state will not uphold any religion as the state religion. No religion will be the state religion in India. And this is something contrasting to what happened in our neighborhood. The country was divided in the name of religion. Pakistan emerged as the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, but not India. India stayed secular. Bangladesh became an Islamic Republic. Myanmar, one form of Buddhism, became the state religion. Similarly, in Sri Lanka, one form of Buddhism became the state religion. But India stayed away from its neighbors. in upholding the principle of secularism. If secularism means church and state are separate, church will not interfere in the state, state will not interfere in the church, basically religious places. In United States, it is complete non-interference. In China, it is complete interference in the sense that you can't display religion because we are anti-religion. And in India, we say secularism means principled distance. Principled distance in the sense, number one, we will protect all religions equally. Protect all religions equally in the sense, if there is Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, we will fund that yatra. We will give free tickets to the people, go to that yatra. And if there are people going on a Hajj pilgrimage, we will subsidize them as well. Although that subsidy has now been removed, but there was a time when the subsidy was given for the Hajj as well. Equal protection of the religion in the sense, we will give donation for the construction of a mosque as well, for the construction of a gurdwara as well, for the construction of a temple as well. We will equally protect all religions. And no religion will be a state religion. And secularism also in India is unique. Unique in the sense that we have political parties in the name of religion. Akali Dal, All India Ittihadul Muslimin, or Majlis-e Ittihadul Muslimin of Mr. Owaisi. We had Hindu Mahasabha. We had the Christian parties. That means India is unique. Just like India, because religion is so much intimately associated with the lives of the Indians that you can't take religion out of India or religion out of the psyche of Indians. That is why the constitution maker said we will have a different form of secularism. And what is that different form of secularism? We will equally protect all religions. And at the same time, we will not uphold any religion as the state religion. And at the same time, we will ensure that there is no discrimination. On the grounds of religion. For example, Article 15 of the Constitution, which we will discuss next.